Hey guys, tonight we're heading deep into the misty hills of Virginia where Thomas Jefferson's legendary estate, Monticello, waits under the heavy hush of twilight. The shutters creak just a little too slowly. The hallways echo with the kind of silence that feels aware of itself. You won't find bloodstains here, no chains rattling or paintings that scream. No, Monticello prefers the soft kind of haunting, the slow unfurling dread of a house that never truly sleeps. You arrive alone just past sundown, the gravel crunching under your shoes as the last rays of sun slip behind the Blue Ridge Mountains. Fog has rolled in thin, restless, and unusually amber-toned. The kind of light that makes everything look slightly out of time, as if you've stepped sideways, not forward. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. I'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop your location and local time in the comments. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You approach Monticello's columned facade. At first it feels smaller than you expected, a kind of optical trick Jefferson engineered with forced perspective. The closer you get, the stranger it seems. Those windows on the third floor, they weren't there just a moment ago. A pair of wrought iron gates, grown open for you unprompted. You think maybe it's motion sensor tech, until you realize there's no power out here. Not tonight, not for you. A man in a colonial-style frock coat, clearly a reenactor, you assume greets you without introduction. His face is gentle but unreadable, like a wax figure mid-melt. "You made good time," he says, holding open the front door. "The parlor's already waiting." That's an odd phrase. You chalk it up to period speak and follow him in. The air inside is cooler than outside, not quite damp, but weighted. The scent of old tobacco furniture polish and something lightly citrusy. Maybe bergamot clings to the wainscoting. You've read that Jefferson liked orange peels. Maybe it's a replica detail, maybe not. A docent's voice echoes faintly in another wing. She's leading a group through the dining room, but oddly, their footsteps never reach your ears. In fact, no one else appears in your part of the house at all. You follow your guide, if you can call him that, down a hallway lined with artifacts. There's a polygraph machine Jefferson once used to duplicate his letters, still ink-stained and operational. The machine moves slightly as you pass its twin pens, sketching invisible loops in the air. Historians still argue whether Jefferson believed in the supernatural. Publicly, he didn't. Privately, well, the man designed a weather vane that told him the wind's direction from inside his bed. That's not logic, that's obsession. You try to shake off the tension. The tour continues, or seems to. Your guide pauses at a forked hallway and gestures to the right. You'll find it there. What, the parlor, you ask? But he's already gone. You stand in front of a long corridor dimly lit by gas-like sconces that shouldn't be lit at all. They cast a golden sheen along faded floorboards and deeply worn carpet runners. Monticello was never meant to be a true mansion, not in the Gothic sense, but there's something here, an architectural itch, that makes the layout feel wrong. Hallways too short, ceilings that arch at the wrong slope. Jefferson was a genius, yes, but one prone to flawed brilliance. He rebuilt the house multiple times. Some believe that was more than perfectionism. As you take your first steps down the corridor, the sound changes. No longer your shoes tapping against wood, but something more muffled. like walking on layered pages. You pass a small door frame too narrow for modern standards. Inside is a room not listed on any Monticello guidebook, not on any public blueprint. You step through, and the temperature drops. The parlor is unlike the others you've seen in pictures. The wallpaper's a faded gold damask curling at the corners. A harpsichord sits in the corner keys, yellowed like old teeth. The windows are bricked up behind sheer curtains, and in the center, a rocking chair sways gently, slowly, without any breeze. You don't feel afraid, yet, just observed. You try the light switch. Nothing. There never was electricity in this part, you remind yourself. But somehow the sconces stay lit, humming faintly. Above the fireplace is a portrait partially obscured by shadow. Not Jefferson. Not anyone you recognize. A woman, maybe. Her face turned just enough to keep her identity uncertain. That's when you notice it. On the small round table beside the rocker, a silver calling card tray. And in it, a card with your name. The ink's still wet. You take a step back the floor, creaking sharply beneath you. Dust motes hang in the air like suspended ash. Monticello is famously built atop layered cellars and tunnels. Jefferson loved privacy, loved secrecy. It's why some believe there are still sealed rooms never opened since the 1800s. And if this parlor was meant to stay hidden, why is it welcoming you now? You blink. The chair stops rocking, and something in the fireplace clicks softly. You freeze, breath caught in your throat. That soft click in the fireplace wasn't loud, but it was precise, intentional, like the turn of an old key behind a velvet curtain. The firebox is empty, of course, just cold brick stained with soot and time. But there's a shimmer at the base, something metallic, tucked behind the andirons. You kneel carefully, your hand brushing aside the grit of centuries, and find what looks like a lever. It's carved in the shape of a laurel branch. You hesitate, because you know how these stories go. The curious guest, the hidden mechanism, the slow descent into mystery that no one ever quite climbs back out of. So naturally, you pull it. A panel behind the mantel clicks, then slides. It reveals not a tunnel, not stairs, a compartment. And inside it, folded like a letter never meant to be sent, is a cream-colored envelope sealed in red wax. The initials on it aren't TJ. They're yours. You stare at it, hands trembling just slightly. The wax isn't dusty. It's soft warm to the touch. Inside a single sentence, written in looping ink, "We have always been waiting." And below it a stamped date, October 28th, 1803. Historians still argue whether Monticello was a safe house during that time, hiding letters and guests that never made the ledgers. But there's no record of anything remotely like this, no mysterious notes addressed to phantom future visitors, no whispers of rooms preparing themselves. The walls of the parlor seem to lean in slightly now. The air presses closer to your skin, not uncomfortable, but expectant. You sit for a moment in the rocker, just a moment. The wood is smoother than you expect, worn in all the right places, like someone your exact size has sat here for centuries. Your hand rests on the armrest and sinks slightly. Another click. A hatch opens in the baseboard. A tiny door. You don't crawl through it, thankfully. That's not the kind of night this is. Instead, you peer inside and find a tiny hand-inked map. A floor plan of Monticello, but not as it is today. This one includes rooms that no longer exist, or maybe never officially did. One of them is circled in red ink, the hidden parlor, and below that, a scrawled note. He will meet you shortly. You blink again. The portrait above the fireplace has changed. It's now a man thin with dark eyes that seem too deep for paint. His smile is faint, a little smug, a little sad. His coat is out of place, Regency era, but European, not American. His hand rests on a silver bell. You spin around. The silver bell on the table rings, but you didn't touch it. Somewhere far down the hallway, you hear a footstep. Just one. Monticello has long been rumored to host residual haunts echoes that play on loop. Footsteps on the stairs. Jefferson's boots pacing the floor. But this isn't a loop. This step is getting closer. You check the hallway. Nothing. And then the caretaker appears again, not from the front, but from a side door that wasn't there before. Still comfortable, he asks, with that same patient tone. He's nearly ready. You ask who he is, but the man just smiles. Some guests don't like names. You understand. He gestures for you to follow. You hesitate, but he waits calmly as if he has all night. And maybe he does. He leads you deeper into the house, past Jefferson's cabinet room, past the tea alcove. The hall's narrow. Twist. Jefferson believed in space that shifted the man. Says his voice soft behind you. He used hidden passageways, made rooms collapse inward, built for privacy, but also distortion. You glance back. The hallway behind you is gone. A wall now stands where you came from, as if the house is reshaping itself around you. You step into a narrow octagonal space. The walls are lined with portraits, all unknown faces. You study them closely. One looks disturbingly familiar. Not quite you, but close. In 1815, a small fire in Monticello destroyed part of Jefferson's private collection of portraits. Some historians say the names of those lost images were never recorded, but one 19th century guest reported seeing his own likeness among them days before vanishing. Of course, that was dismissed. Too superstitious, too convenient. You reach out to touch the canvas. It's warm, almost pulsing. Your guide, the caretaker, clears his throat. The parlor does not like delay. You follow him through another arched doorway, and there it is again, the same parlor, or not quite. The rocking chair is still there, but now it's facing the opposite direction. The fireplace has no portrait. The calling card tray holds 2 cards, now one with your name, one with someone else's. And this time the fire is lit, a low, whispering flame, blue and gold. Your guide bows slightly. You'll be staying here for the night. He walks backward out of the room. The door shuts, locks, softly, almost politely. You're not afraid, not yet, but now the flame crackles, and a new sound joins it, a soft, rhythmic rocking. And no one's in the chair. The chair rocks with unsettling grace, like it's following music you can't hear. You watch it for a long while, unsure whether to speak to move, or simply to let it finish, whatever it seems to be doing. Eventually the rocking slows, then stops, and you realize the fire has changed again. It's not just flickering, it's showing something. Inside the hearth in the blue-gold flames, shapes begin to form, a tiny domed building, perfectly symmetrical. Rolling hills behind it, and then faint human figures drifting in and out like ghosts caught in old glass. It's Monticello, or rather a version of it. This isn't Jefferson's parlor anymore. This is the house, remembering itself. Historians still argue whether Jefferson ever commissioned hidden spaces outside of documented architecture. Officially, he didn't, but letters to close associates mention a room for no light and fewer questions. And according to one enslaved worker's oral account, there was a chamber behind the wine cellar that no one was allowed to enter, Not even servants. The fireplace flares, then fades. You glance around the room again. The second calling card still rests in the tray. You lean closer. This one is far older than yours. A name written in curling script, Theobald Lemoine, beneath it. Guest of October 28, 1803. The same date as your envelope. You pause. That name Lemoine feels familiar. Not from school, from something older. You dig through your memory. Wasn't there a French architect? Yes, a minor designer who briefly advised Jefferson on dome structures during his ambassadorship in Paris. Lemoine disappeared under mysterious circumstances just after arriving in Virginia. No grave, no letters, no trail. Monticello's records mention him once, a dinner invitation, nothing more. And yet here's his name, waiting with yours. You take a deep breath and press your hand to the wallpaper. It's soft beneath your fingertips, not fabric, not paper. Something organic. It pulses faintly beneath your palm. You don't pull away, not yet. The room tilts ever so slightly, or perhaps your equilibrium does. That same sense of not quite being alone tightens around your ribs. You turn and find that the portrait above the mantel has returned. Only now it's you, your face, but older, slightly worn. The eyes are yours, but tired in a way you don't yet understand. The bell on the table rings again, 3 times. You feel compelled, not frightened, not even coerced, but gently nudged to move toward the corner where the harpsichord sits. A single key is pressed down, held by something unseen. And beneath it, a small drawer has popped open. Inside an envelope addressed to Theobald Lemoine. You open it. The letter inside is written in French, but your mind seems to translate automatically, word by word. If you find this, it means, I never left. The house listens, but only responds to those it remembers. You must play the sonata. The bottom of the letter includes a short sequence of musical notes, handwritten but shaky. You glance at the harpsichord. The keys are faded but intact. You sit tentatively, the bench creaking under your weight. And you play, not expertly, more like muscle memory you didn't know you had. The notes are dissonant at first, then strangely beautiful. As the final chord fades, the wall across the room slides open. No noise, no drama, just a quiet invitation. Beyond it, a narrow passage. Not brick, not plaster, root. The tunnel appears to be grown, not built. Its walls are interwoven with what looks like petrified vines and aged bone-white wood. It smells of citrus tobacco and something faintly metallic. You step inside. The moment you do, the door behind you seals shut. The sound it makes is less of a thud and more of a sigh. The tunnel slopes downward, not steeply, just enough that you feel your body tilt forward as you walk. Here time loses shape. You see things in the walls, faces caught in root knots, old Jeffersonian relics embedded in bark quill pens, wine bottles, even fragments of Monticello's original dome. One plaque reads, "Ideas once conceived never truly leave." It's unclear who wrote it, but the script is familiar, like your own. Eventually the tunnel ends in a circular chamber lit by candle-like flames clinging to the ceiling. No sources, just floating fire, quiet and unwavering. In the center, a single chair, facing away from you, and beside it, a worn journal open to the last page. The entry reads, "He's coming back," or forward. The parlor bends for him, for us. You feel your breath catch, because the signature on the bottom of the page is yours, and the ink is still drying. You stare at the ink, still glistening, still warm. You haven't written this entry. Not yet. But here it is, your handwriting, your unmistakable, lopsided loop, on the letter R, and that odd way you cross your T-yes like tiny daggers. It's undeniably yours. And that means one of two things. Either you're losing your mind inside Monticello's shifting skeleton, or time doesn't quite follow the same etiquette in this part of the house. You look again at the chair, still turned away from you, still silent. You approach it slowly, step by step, half expecting a wax figure, or worse, a mirror. But when you circle around to face the seat, it's empty, except for the coat. A long, dark navy coat with golden buttons, Regency style. French stitching, frayed in spots where a traveler might have brushed against 1,000 corridors. And in the coat's inside pocket, a ticket stub. A tiny relic, faded and yellowed, written in French. Passage Pour Charlotteville, 1803. So, Theobald Lemoine made it this far, but he didn't make it back. You look again at the journal and flip backward through the pages. Each entry gets shakier, shorter. You find notes about the tunnel's breathing, the portraits blinking, whole sentences about the walls forgetting their shape. One entry simply reads, "Don't let the parlor keep your name," which under normal circumstances you'd chalk up to cabin fever. But after 3 hours in this architectural fever dream, you're starting to wonder if names work like keys here. If claiming a name Theobald's yours means something to the house. Historians still argue about Jefferson's fascination with symmetry, but few discuss his more esoteric habits, his obsession with time-sleep cycles, and how architecture could, in his own words, shape the natural rhythm of memory. They say he read volumes on the Egyptian concept of memory, palaces, structures built to house not people, but recollections. You're starting to think Monticello isn't just a home. It's a memory palace that never stopped expanding, and somehow it remembers you. You press your palm against the far wall of the round chamber. It doesn't move this time, but your skin buzzes slightly, like touching static electricity. Then a sound, a voice, not speaking, humming, soft, tuneless, but very close. You spin and the candle flames dip slightly as if exhaling. The humming continues behind the far wall now, then above you, then beside, then silence, until a knock. Not at the chamber door. At the journal, you glance down. The book is open again to a fresh blank page, and across it, right before your eyes, a new sentence writes itself in thick black ink. Please return to the parlor. You don't ask who's writing. You don't speak. The question is irrelevant. The answer's likely unhelpful. You just obey. The roots retract, literally, like veins contracting beneath the earth's skin. The tunnel you came through reforms behind you, a gentle shiver echoing in the bark. You follow it backward, except this time the space feels shorter, the roots lighter. You emerge not into the parlor, but into another room entirely, a dining room, lavishly set. Candlelight flickers on cut crystal, silverware polished to a mirror sheen. Every seat filled, except one, your seat. You recognize several guests immediately from old etchings, Thomas Jefferson at the head of course. Dolly Madison to his right. Further down, a face you think is Sally Hemings, but blurred, almost shielded by light. And across from her, Theobald. Older, paler, his eyes locked on you the moment you enter. No one speaks, no one moves. Then Jefferson lifts a glass. To memory, he says softly. And all at once the guests raise theirs too. You do the same, because what else are you going to do in a time-folded dinner party? To memory they echo. You drink. The wine is warm, spiced. It tastes like cinnamon and secrets. Then the plates clear themselves. Not dramatically, just subtly. You blink, and the lamb is gone. You blink again, and only two guests remain, Jefferson and Theobald. Jefferson leans forward, expression calm. Measured. You've seen the corridors, he says. You've touched the parlor. You nod. There's no point denying it. The house remembers you, he continues. That's rare, and not always convenient. Theobald laughs softly. It's usually fatal. Jefferson glares at him briefly. Not always. You try to ask what that means, but your voice doesn't come. Literally. It's not that they talk over you, it's that your vocal cords feel unhooked, gently silenced. Jefferson sighs. We designed the parlor as a resting place, he says, but it's learned too much. Now it collects. He pushes something across the table, a watch, not a pocket watch, a wristwatch. Modern, yours, except it's broken. The hour hand spins slowly, backward. I think it's time you left, Jefferson says. Then the dining room begins to blur. You close your eyes. When you open them, you're back in the parlor. The same chair, same silver bell, only now there's a third calling card. Yours. Next to it, a note. Do not answer the bell a third time. Then softly, as if from beneath the floorboards, ding. You freeze. The sound still echoes soft and silvery from somewhere deep beneath the wooden floor. It wasn't loud. It wasn't urgent, but it carried the weight of a warning wrapped in velvet. Ding. Only once. Not the three chimes from before, but the tone, the resonance felt different, heavier, like the house had changed keys. You stare at the table. Your calling card, freshly placed, looks slightly aged, now the corners curling like sun-withered parchment. The ink is blurred, as if someone had tried to erase your name but changed their mind halfway through. The note beside it still reads, Do not answer the bell a third time. And yet, you didn't ring it, did you? The silver bell sits silent, no vibrations, no sign of use. But you can feel it vibrating in the air, subtly like the buzz of a power line or the hum of an approaching train just outside hearing range. You start to rise, but the floor groans beneath you, not creaking, not protesting, groaning, like breath caught in wood. You pause, then slowly, instinctively look up. The chandelier has changed. Gone are the classic Jeffersonian brass arms and candle-style lights. Now dangling above you is an enormous mobile of bones, bird bones, judging by the size. Arranged in the precise geometry of an orrery, but shifting slowly in an unnatural orbit. They rotate lazily as though pushed by wind, though the air remains still. One femur passes over your head and casts a flickering shadow that somehow feels colder than your skin. You don't look too closely at the carvings etched into the bones. Not yet. Instead, your gaze drifts to the far corner of the parlor, the faintest outline of a door that wasn't there before. Its shape is wrong. Not rectangular, not arched, octagonal, almost as though modeled after the Monticello dome itself. No handle, no hinges, just the same strange organic material as the tunnel from before, now formed into a doorway. And inside the scent of old tobacco smoke and something sweeter, honey maybe, or decay. You approach each step careful. As you near the threshold, your ears begin to ring quietly at first, then sharper. It's not unpleasant, but it's insistent. Like the house is testing your resolve. You don't step through. You reach toward the frame. The moment your fingers graze it, you're no longer in the parlor. Not fully. The room has changed again. This is Monticello, but as it might have been during Jefferson's lifetime, everything here gleams. Polished wood, vibrant fabrics, natural light pouring through skylights now buried in renovations. And in the far end of the room, sitting cross-legged on the floor, is a little girl. She's maybe 6, hair braided, wearing a pale yellow dress with worn slippers. And she's humming the same tune you heard in the chamber beneath the house. She doesn't look up, just continues drawing symbols into the wood floor with a feather quill dipped in invisible ink. You can't see the shapes, but somehow you feel them forming. She finally speaks, still not looking at you. You're the new guest? You nod slowly. I think so. She frowns. That's what they always think. You blink. The girl sighs. The ones who stay too long. You try to kneel beside her, but the moment you do, she vanishes, her outline dissolving into dust that smells of lilac and ash. You're alone again, but the floor remains, and where she sat, a new shape has formed, something carved into the floorboards. It looks like a compass, but with too many points, each marked with a small name: Lemoyne, Hemmings, E. Randolph, M. D. Carter. Unreadable. Then your own name, right at the center. You trace your finger over it, and the entire floor shudders. Not violently, just noticeably, like the house shifted its weight. A window opens behind you, not by hand, but as if something breathed it into existence. Through it, you can see the Virginia countryside, except it's not 2025 anymore. It's hard to say. The trees look younger, the sky less burdened, and down the hill, people gathering. A kind of procession, some dressed in 18th century garb, some in modern clothes, one or two in completely anachronistic fashion top hats beside fanny packs. They're all walking toward Monticello. Silently, calmly, no urgency, no chaos, just arrival. You turn away from the window. The bell on the table dings again. But this time, it doesn't stop. Ding, 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 each one louder, more deliberate, and when you step back into the main parlor, the entire room has been reset. The wallpaper gleams. The harpsichord plays itself. A teacup steams gently on the sideboard. And, seated in your chair, is a man you don't recognize. But he's wearing your coat. He looks up startled, then frightened. You realize, it's not your coat. It's just like yours, but older, worn down by someone else's time here. Who are you? He asks. You open your mouth to answer, but a voice from behind interrupts. Does it matter? You turn, and Jefferson stands there again, but he's smiling differently now, like a man who's waiting for you to catch up. He gestures to the guest in the chair. He just arrived, Jefferson says, and now you're ready to leave. Then you understand. You've become part of the furniture, and unless you find your name again, you'll never quite make it back out. You don't argue with Jefferson. It seems unwise. Besides, there's something about the way he tilts his head, as though measuring your soul's temperature, that keeps your mouth politely shut. You glance at the man in the chair again. He's blinking rapidly, taking in the parlor like you once did. The same mixture of wonder and unease. The kind of expression you wear when the air smells like lavender and secrets. He catches your eye, and for a moment, something passes between you. Recognition. No, not quite. More like a shared premonition. Jefferson clears his throat. I trust you'll escort yourself out. You nod, not because you agree, but because it feels like a test. The moment you step away from the parlor, the hallway shifts. Not visually, just acoustically. The sounds behind you dull, like someone pressed cotton into your ears. Ahead, the corridor seems longer than before, gently sloping downward, and the sconces lining the walls no longer burn with firelight. Now they glow with something bluish-green like trapped will-o'-the-wisps. You could swear they blink when you're not looking directly at them. You walk. Your footsteps barely make a sound, now muffled by an odd, felt-like layer of dust on the floor. It clings faintly to your shoes and smells faintly of cedar and dried roses. A plaque on the wall catches your eye. Servants' Passage, restricted past 1826. You're not entirely sure if that restriction is temporal or physical, but you push the door open anyway. The hinges groan softly, like they haven't been used in centuries. The hallway beyond is darker stone-lined tight and low-ceilinged. It forces you to stoop slightly, humbling you before the architecture. The walls here are carved, not just built. Etched into them are thousands of names, not inscriptions, scratches, names gouged with nails, tools, teeth, some written in elegant script, others desperate and childlike. You recognize a few famous Monticello figures mostly, but others feel invented, maybe future names, maybe echoes of visitors who haven't come yet. One of them is yours. It's a little fresher than the rest. The tunnel leads to a cellar, one that according to official floor plans doesn't exist. You only know it does because you're in it. The space is cavernous. The walls curve overhead in perfect ellipses like an inverted observatory. Dust motes swirl upward, caught in a breeze that shouldn't be here. In the center of the room stands a giant copper orb, roughly 6 feet in diameter. Its surface is covered in tiny mechanical keyholes, each no bigger than a dime, each labeled in some strange cipher that seems to shift if you stare too long. You walk around the orb slowly. Its surface hums slightly, like a sleeping machine dreaming of clocks. A woman sits on a stool beside it. She's sewing something onto a long red ribbon that stretches across her lap like a sash of blood. You recognize her dress, mulberry cotton, handmade, historically accurate to around 1802. She could be a reenactor, except her hands move like someone who's done this every day for over 200 years. She doesn't look up. You took the long route, she says. You hesitate. Do I know you? No, she says, but I know the house, and I know what it wants. She points at the orb with the tip of her needle. That thing's not decoration. It's a mnemonic prison. You blink. Come again? It holds stories. She explains gently, threading another name onto her ribbon. All the ones people tried to forget. Things that happened in the spaces between renovations. The rumors no one writes down because they're inconvenient to history. She finishes a stitch. It also eats time. You frown, like a time capsule. She shrugs, more like a time compost heap. Everything thrown in here breaks down differently. The orb gives a low thrum, deep and musical, like the sound of a cello tuned underwater. You lean in. One of the keyholes glows briefly, then clicks. It opens. Inside, you glimpse a flash of light, then a scene. A candlelit dinner circa 1812. Jefferson sits at the head of the table, surrounded by guests. But something's wrong. No one's eating. No one's speaking. They're frozen, not like statues, more like paused, held mid-motion, except one. At the far end of the table, a child, perhaps 11, stares directly at you through the opening. Her lips move, but no sound escapes. You squint. She's mouthing your name. Then the keyhole snaps shut. You stumble backward, heart fluttering in your chest, like a moth sealed in a jar. The woman looks up at you finally. Her eyes are calm, tired, very old. She's been trying to reach someone for a long time, she says. You clear your throat. Who is she? The woman smiles faintly. She's the reason the parlor has no mirrors. You shiver involuntarily. Another scholar's note surfaces from some dusty corner of memory. Monticello's blueprints never included a single true mirror in the entire parlor suite, only reflective surfaces distorted by age or angle. Visitors chalked it up to vanity or superstition. Historians still argue whether Jefferson designed it that way to avoid seeing someone he feared or someone he missed. You glance at the orb again. One more keyhole pulses softly. This one bears your initials. You don't touch it yet. The woman stands and hands you the red ribbon. It's much longer than you expected, maybe 30 feet, dozens of names stitched in delicate cursive people. You recognize others you've only read about in footnotes. She points toward a narrow stairwell near the edge of the room. That'll take you to the old observatory. You blink. There's no observatory at Monticello. She just raises an eyebrow. Not anymore. You take the ribbon and nod your thanks. As you step toward the stairs, she calls after you. If the girl asks you to play a game, you pause. Don't. You nod. The door at the top of the stairs opens before you touch it. You step through, and the air changes again. The observatory, if you can call it that, feels more like a forgotten attic than any astronomer's sanctum. The room is round, domed, and utterly still. There's a narrow circular window at the top through which a shaft of moonlight pours like milk into a bowl. Dust dances lazily in the beam. Everything smells faintly of old wood, pressed lavender and metal polish, like someone cleaned in a hurry centuries ago. You step quietly across creaking floorboards. To your left, a telescope vintage and brass-pointed, not toward the heavens, but angled down, almost as if watching the lawn. You peer through it, half expecting to see constellations, but instead you see the south pavilion lit by phantom candlelight. A small figure in white sits by the window. It's the girl again. She blinks slowly. You blink back. She tilts her head, not in fear, but curiosity. You half raise a hand to wave, but she's already vanished. Behind you, something shifts. You whirl, expecting Jefferson again. Nope, it's the guest. Yes, him, the stranger from the parlor. Only now he's changed. His waistcoat is gone. His shoes are dusty. His hands tremble ever so slightly, and he looks tired, not sleepy, but worn down in a way that suggests time has rubbed against him like sandpaper. "You saw her, didn't you?" he asks, his voice low and velvet soft. You nod. He gives a long exhale, then walks to a nearby writing desk. Its surface is cluttered with crumbling books, strange star charts, and a faded set of blueprints labeled Monticello 1809, Private Revision. He pulls something from beneath them, a journal hand-stitched leather, the edges warped by humidity and years. He places it in your hands. It belonged to her caretaker, he says. No one knows his name. He wrote in ciphers. Look. You open the journal carefully. Inside, hundreds of pages of symbols, mirrored text, and occasionally drawings. Childlike ones. A girl playing jacks with her shadow. A cat with too many tails. A game of hide-and-seek where the seeker wears a powdered wig and no face. You turn the page. This one's different. It's written in plain English. March 3rd, 1813. She asked again about the mirror. I told her it's not time, but she said the reflection already came to visit. She's drawing symbols on the walls now. The others don't notice, but they're always just behind the paint. March 10th. Heard laughter in the chimney again. Not smoke, not birds. Laughter. March 13th. She invited me to tea, but the teapot was full of teeth. You close the book. Slowly. Who was she? You ask finally. He pauses. His fingers grip the edge of the telescope. She was Jefferson's. He stops himself. No, that's not the right word. Let's just say she belonged to the house in ways no one expected. A long silence follows. You lean on the railing that circles the observatory's edge, staring down into the gardens below. Moonlight throws strange shadows across the boxwood maze. Then you spot it. The girl, standing in the center of the maze, facing upward, toward you. She lifts her arms and makes a slow circular motion, like turning an invisible wheel. And as she does, the walls of the maze seem to shift, reorganize, not dramatically, but just enough to change the paths. She's resetting the maze, the guest says softly. She does that when someone's getting close. You glance at him. Close to what he doesn't answer. Instead, he crosses the room and opens a cabinet. Inside, a set of objects arranged in eerie reverence. A feather quill still wet with ink, a broken hourglass, a child's hair ribbon tied in a perfect bow, and a faded note card that reads, "Admittance requires forgetting." You step back. "What is this place, Monticello?" he says, but then adds, "Not the one you visit, the one you remember. That's the price. This version of the house only appears to those who already carry some fragment of it inside them." You frown. "But I've never been here before." He looks at you with something halfway between pity and admiration. "Haven't you?" The journal in your hand feels heavier now, warmer. You open to the back. One final page. It's a drawing of you standing in the observatory, looking confused. Behind you in the picture, the girl holds your hand. You whip around, but the room is empty. Only the telescope, the books, the moonlight, and the wind, which sounds almost like a little girl humming an old Virginia lullaby. Historians still argue whether Jefferson ever commissioned a hidden observatory, or whether this tower room was simply the result of misinterpreted blueprints and local lore. But some swear it was real briefly before being sealed shut. Others insist it wasn't a structure at all, but a ritual space open only when certain atmospheric conditions were met. Theories pile up like bricks in a lost wing. You tuck the journal into your coat. The guest speaks again, this time more urgently. "The parlor is waking. We don't have much time." You follow him down a narrow ladder into another hidden passage. This one feels colder, wetter, like it dips underground, somewhere between root cellar and wine vault. The walls pulse faintly, with a glow like the inside of a seashell. Water drips from the ceiling into stone bowls placed precisely every few feet. The air smells of minerals and mildew. Someone or something keeps this space hydrated. The guest pauses, points toward a circular door at the end of the corridor. "Through there," he says. "That's where they kept the records that didn't make it into the Library of Congress." You hesitate. "What happens if I go through?" He smiles faintly. "Nothing. You can prove." Then he's gone. Just like that. You're alone with your breath. And the slow rising heartbeat of Monticello itself. You reach the circular door. It's not wood or metal, but something in between. Smooth like river stone, cool to the touch, veined with silver threads that pulse gently under your fingertips. You press lightly. The door does not open. Instead, it hums. You feel a low-frequency vibration move up your arm, across your shoulders, settling at the base of your skull like a tuning fork struck inside your head. You take a slow step back, unsure if you're meant to knock, speak a phrase, or just stand there and hum back. So, you do what any sleep-deprived, potentially time-warped ghost tourist would do. You clear your throat and say, "Excuse me?" The door opens. Of course it does. It slides inward without a sound, revealing a room unlike any other in Monticello. Gone is the neoclassical symmetry, the polished Jeffersonian order. This space is chaotic, organic. It looks like a library grown out of bone and bark. You step inside. Shelves rise and twist like vines reaching into the gloom. Papers flutter as if stirred by a breeze that doesn't exist. There's no light source, but everything glows faintly enough to see that none of the books have titles, only dates. Some are centuries ahead of now. Some are impossibly old. You glance down. The nearest volume is labeled October 11th, 1793, Parlor Visit. You open it. Inside is a transcript not of a seance or ghost story, but a polite conversation. The handwriting is Jefferson's. Visitor asked if the house remembered him. I responded that it often remembers better than I. He offered me a broken watch in exchange for directions to the garden door. I declined. He insisted. The hands pointed backwards. I accepted. Note to self: parlor clock now refuses to chime at midnight. You turn the page. Visitor left through the south garden. Girl watched from the balustrade. She said he wouldn't remember. I said that was the idea. The next entry is dated 1 year later. Another visit, another watch, another memory traded. You close the book slowly. It dawns on you that this room might not be Jefferson's. Not entirely. This is the house's collection, its memory, its preferred catalog. You begin walking. The floor feels like packed dirt, covered in rugs. Your footsteps make no sound, but the books rustle as you pass as if adjusting themselves. Some swing open when you near revealing sketches the girl again and again in different dresses with different hair lengths, but always her. In one image, she holds a key larger than her torso. In another, she's building something from tiny bones. In the center of the room stands a circular table made of interlocked spoons, forks, and letter openers, all melted together into a single spiraling surface. On top, a single object, a music box. You hesitate. You're sure the girl placed it here. It's her style, whimsical but threatening, like a riddle sewn into a teddy bear. You wind it slowly. The melody starts soft, twinkling off tune, a little too slow. And then the room changes. The shelves freeze, the glow dims, and you hear something behind you. Footsteps. Bare, small, deliberate. You turn, and there she is, this time close enough to touch. Her eyes are glassy like a doll's, but wet. Alive. "Did you read about him?" she asks. You nod. "Do you think he should have remembered?" You pause. "Maybe, but maybe that's not the point." She smiles. Good answer. She walks to the music box and stops it with a single finger. Silence falls. "I'm not supposed to talk to guests this far in," she says, voice hushed. "But I'm tired of pretending I'm not here. You're the one who keeps changing the maze, you say." She nods, to keep people from getting stuck. Some try too hard. They think the parlor holds answers. And does it? Her smile falters. No, just echoes. She takes your hand, cold but steady. "I want to show you something." Together, you walk to the far wall where the shelves abruptly end. A flat expanse of dark stone, mirror-like, but not quite. It doesn't reflect your face. It reflects something else. A hallway, twisted, slanted, flickering candlelight, and a version of yourself walking into it. You blink. It's gone. She sighs. That's where he went. The one from the first visit. He didn't come back. Where does it lead? No one knows. It shifts. You look down at her. Are you trapped here? She shrugs. Maybe, but not in a bad way. The house and I, we made a deal. What kind of deal? She giggles. The kind with no lawyers. You raise your eyebrows. She taps your chest right above your heart. You carry a question. That's why the parlor lets you in. You want to protest, but you do carry something, a sense of not quite remembering. A tug just behind your ribs, something unfinished. Do I get an answer? She tilts her head. Maybe, but only if you're brave enough to forget something else first. Historians still argue whether Jefferson kept a second journal, one that never reached the archives. Some speculate it was destroyed. Others believe it was hidden beneath floorboards, or even buried with him. Theories abound that it contained political secrets, private guilt, or even architectural diagrams with occult alignments. But maybe it wasn't a journal at all. Maybe it was this room, this living archive. You glance around one last time. The books are shifting again, pages turning symbols, rearranging whispers so faint they sound like wind through lace. The girl walks back to the music box and opens it again. The tune resumes slower now. It's time, she says. For what? She just smiles. You step through the last shelf into the shadow behind the mirror wall. And the door, if there was one, vanishes. You find yourself in a narrow, dimly lit corridor. The air is thick with the scent of aged paper, damp stone, and something faintly sweet like jasmine mixed with old perfume. The walls curve inward as if the house itself is exhaling, enclosing you in a secret breath. Footsteps echo softly behind you. The girl's presence is felt, though she remains just out of sight. You can almost hear her humming the same lullaby slower, this time drawing you forward. Ahead, the corridor opens into a large chamber, half library, half gallery, filled with portraits of people you don't recognize, but who seem to watch you with eyes full of quiet secrets. One painting draws your gaze. It's of a woman in Regency-era dress, her hands folded on her lap, lips curled into a knowing smile. A placard beneath reads Eliza Monroe, Keeper of Secrets. You recall that Eliza Monroe was a close friend of Jefferson's daughter Martha. Historians still argue whether Eliza's influence extended beyond friendship into the more mysterious realms of social and political espionage. The girl steps into view beside you, pointing at the painting. She knew the house's stories better than anyone. Some say she added her own. You trace your fingers over the frame, feeling a subtle warmth as if the woman inside is breathing. Suddenly, a faint whisper ripples through the room. Not a voice, but a feeling like a breeze carrying half-remembered words. You lean in closer and notice a small folded note tucked behind the painting. Unfolding it reveals a coded message written in a cipher that looks like a mix of musical notes and ancient script. Historians have puzzled over this note for centuries, the girl says softly. They think it might be the key to the parlor's true purpose. You try humming the pattern in the note, and the walls tremble ever so slightly, as if recognizing the melody. From somewhere deep within the chamber, a hidden door slides open, revealing a spiral staircase leading down into darkness. You hesitate, feeling the weight of the house's memory pressing on your shoulders. The girl takes your hand again reassuringly. Sometimes to understand the past, you have to step into its shadows. You begin descending the stairs, each step creaking softly underfoot. As you go deeper, the air grows cooler, and the silence thickens, broken only by distant dripping sounds and the occasional flutter of unseen wings. At the bottom, you enter a cavernous underground vault, lined with shelves of aged manuscripts, strange artifacts, and peculiar objects, wrapped in faded velvet. Among them, a small wooden box catches your eye. It's carved with intricate patterns of stars and moons, and sealed with an ancient wax emblem. You open it carefully, revealing a delicate silver locket inscribed with the words, "Remember to forget." The girl whispers, "This locket holds a secret one." The house guards fiercely. You hold it close, feeling a pulse of warmth radiate from within. Historians still argue whether Monticello's underground chambers were used for political machinations, secret societies, or esoteric experiments. But now standing here, you realize they may have been all three. The locket vibrates softly in your palm. You glance up, the girl is gone, and the silence grows deeper. The silence wraps around you like a velvet cloak, dense yet comforting. You cradle the locket in your hand, its faint warmth, a small beacon in the vault's cool darkness. The faint glow from your footsteps reveals more artifacts, an assortment of curious objects that seem to hum with forgotten histories. One stands out, a cracked compass, with a needle that spins slowly, never settling. You remembered Jefferson's obsession with navigation and discovery, how he meticulously charted not just the physical world, but ideas, dreams, and the boundaries between them. Historians still argue whether Jefferson's compass was purely symbolic, or if it was rumored to have actual supernatural properties. You twist the locket's clasp gently and find a tiny folded note inside. The handwriting is elegant, flowing likely the same delicate script you saw in the Parlor's book. It reads, "To find the way, you must forget the path." You repeat the phrase aloud, feeling the echo bounce softly off the stone walls. At that moment, the compass's needle slows, pointing steadily toward a narrow passage you hadn't noticed before, hidden behind a stack of rolled parchments. Curiosity pushes you forward. You slide past the documents, feeling the weight of centuries pressing close. The passage slopes downward into a smaller chamber. Here the air smells faintly of lavender and something earthier, like fresh rain on old soil. The walls are lined with hand-painted murals depicting scenes from Native American folklore, specifically Cherokee legends, about spirits that guide lost souls. You recall that the Monticello grounds were once part of vast indigenous lands, and the interaction between early American settlers and native tribes was complex, marked by both conflict and cultural exchange. One mural shows a figure cloaked in shadows, holding a lantern that shines a pale light. The girl's voice echoes in your mind. Sometimes to move forward, you have to let go of what you think you know. You take a deep breath and step into the mural's world. The walls dissolve like mist, and suddenly you're standing in a forest at twilight. The trees tower above you, their leaves whispering secrets in the evening breeze. The path ahead is barely visible, dappled in moonlight. You hear footsteps soft and deliberate approaching from behind. You turn to see the girl now wearing a cloak woven from leaves and shadows. She smiles gently. Welcome to the edge of forgetting. You realize this journey is not just through Monticello's hidden chambers, but through the layers of memory itself, your memory, the house's memory, and the history tangled between them. The night deepens around you, full of soft whispers and flickering shadows. And the path forward remains uncertain. You follow the girl deeper into the twilight forest, the soft crunch of leaves beneath your feet, sinking with your slowing breath. The air is cool, tinged with the faint scent of pine, and something you can't quite place, maybe forgotten dreams or the fading echo of a lullaby. The trees bend and sway, as if they're breathing their branches, gently brushing against one another, whispering secrets in a language you almost understand. The girl leads you to a clearing where an ancient stone circle stands, moss-covered and weathered by time. You recognize it similar to those used by indigenous peoples for ceremonies and rites places where the veil between worlds thins. The moonlight filters through the canopy, casting soft silver light on the stones. She kneels beside one of the larger stones, tracing a pattern carved into its surface, spirals intertwined with tiny stars. "This is where stories begin and end," she says softly, "and where the house holds its deepest secrets." You kneel beside her, feeling the cold stone beneath your hands. You think of Jefferson's writings, his love for classical architecture and symbolism, how he designed Monticello not just as a home, but as a philosophical statement. Historians still argue whether some elements of the house contain secret codes meant to unlock hidden knowledge. As you study the carvings, a soft wind stirs, and the forest around you seems to exhale. The girl pulls a small pouch from her cloak, sprinkling fine dust into the air. The particles shimmer, catching the moonlight, and suddenly the stone circle glows faintly. Images flicker before your eyes, fleeting visions of past visitors to Monticello's hidden parlor. Men and women dressed in period clothes, their faces blurred, whispering, laughing, sometimes looking lost. One figure stands out, an elderly man clutching a pocket watch, his eyes wide with recognition and sorrow. You remember the recurring motif, the visitor who never left. Was he trapped by the house, or was he the house's guardian? Historians still debate whether this figure was real or a metaphor for something darker, a symbol of memory itself. The girl looks at you, her eyes gleaming with something like hope. You're beginning to understand. The parlor isn't just a room, it's a crossroads, a place where memories are traded, forgotten, and sometimes rewritten. You sit back on your heels, feeling the weight of those words settle over you like a soft blanket. The forest hums quietly around you, and the girl's presence is a gentle anchor in the twilight. A sudden rustle breaks the silence, and you turn to see a faint glow flickering among the trees, the soft light of a lantern moving closer. You hold your breath. The lantern's glow grows nearer, weaving through the trees like a slow heartbeat in the dark. You strain your eyes and notice a figure emerging, an older man, wrapped in a long coat, his face partially obscured by the brim of a worn hat. His steps are deliberate but unhurried, as if he carries the weight of countless years behind him. The girl steps aside, motioning for you to remain silent. The man pauses at the edge of the clearing, his gaze sweeping over the stone circle, lingering on the carvings that still shimmer faintly in the moonlight. You sense an unspoken understanding between him and the girl, a shared history, perhaps even a secret pact. He pulls from his coat pocket a small, intricately carved wooden box and places it carefully on one of the stones. The box seems ancient, etched with symbols that echo those on the circle. You wonder if this is one of Monticello's many mysterious relics items, lost to time yet steeped in meaning. Historians still argue whether such objects were purely decorative or had a ritualistic purpose connected to Jefferson's esoteric interests. The man speaks softly, his voice barely more than a whisper. This is the key to remembering what's been forgotten. He opens the box to reveal a faded photograph, a sepia-toned image of Monticello, but something is off. In the photo, a shadowy figure stands near the hidden parlor's entrance, their features blurred but unmistakably human. The girl steps forward and touches the photograph gently. "The phantom guest," she murmurs, "seen only by those who know where to look. You feel a chill, but it's a soft one, like the brush of cold silk against your skin." The man turns to you, eyes glinting. "You're part of the story now. The house has chosen you to carry its memories." Your mind races with questions, but before you can speak, the lantern's light flickers, and the man begins to fade, dissolving into the mist like a ghost returning to his realm. The girl takes your hand again, guiding you back through the trees, back toward the spiral staircase. "You may not survive the journey unchanged," she says with a gentle smile. "But that's the point. You ascend slowly, the forest fading behind you, the scent of jasmine and old perfume returning. Back in the vault, you close the wooden box and place it alongside the other artifacts. The warmth from the locket pulses gently in your palm. You realize that Monticello's secrets are not just locked in stone and paper, they live in the spaces between memory and reality, waiting for someone to listen. You glance toward the staircase and know there's more to uncover, more whispers to hear, more shadows to follow. The house is alive with stories, and you are part of its unfolding tale. You climb the spiral staircase, slowly feeling the cool stone beneath your fingertips. The air here is still heavy with the scent of damp earth and old wood, and you can hear the faint creak of the house settling, a subtle reminder that this place has been breathing quietly for centuries. As you reach the top, you step back into the library gallery chamber. The portraits seem somehow closer now, their painted eyes following your movements with an almost knowing gaze. You notice the woman, Eliza Munro, again, her smile more enigmatic than before, as if she's silently approving your progress. You wander toward a large, dusty desk tucked into a corner piled high with handwritten letters, journals, and faded maps. You pick up one journal and open it carefully. The handwriting is delicate looping, belonging to Martha Jefferson, Thomas Jefferson's daughter. You read softly to yourself, "The parlor holds many secrets, but some are too heavy even for this house to bear." Historians still debate how much Martha truly understood about the house's hidden chambers, and whether she documented them intentionally or accidentally. Left clues. Curiously tucked inside the journal is a folded scrap of fabric, soft embroidered with tiny gold stars. You touch it lightly, feeling a connection to a time long gone. You remember the girl's words, "The parlor isn't just a room, it's a crossroads." You glance around, spotting a faded outline on the floorboards, a shape worn into the wood like a subtle map. Kneeling, you trace it with your finger, feeling the groove deepen beneath your touch. Suddenly, the room seems to pulse faintly, the portrait's eyes flickering with life. A soft wind rustles the papers on the desk, and you hear the distant sound of a piano, playing a melancholy tune, drifting through the house, weaving between walls and floors. You close your eyes and let the music wash over you, sensing the weight of Monticello's memories folding into your own. The girl appears beside you again, her voice barely above a whisper. You've walked the shadows long enough for tonight. But remember, some stories are meant to be held gently. You nod, understanding that some mysteries may never fully unravel, and that's part of their magic. The soft piano melody fades, and the house settles back into silence. You hold the locket tightly, feeling its steady pulse, a quiet heartbeat, beneath the layers of time. Outside, the first light of dawn creeps through the windows, promising a new day and the slow fading of the night's lingering shadows. The soft glow of dawn filters through the curtains, painting the room with gentle hues of amber and rose. The house breathes quietly around you, its old bones creaking in a rhythm that feels almost like a heartbeat. You sit still for a moment, the locket warm against your palm, the echoes of the night's journey settling softly into the edges of your mind. The girl's presence has faded, but her words linger like a gentle reminder to cherish the balance between knowing and mystery. You rise slowly and wander toward the window, looking out across the sprawling grounds of Monticello, bathed in morning light. The gardens are serene dew sparkling on the leaves, and birds chirp softly, a stark contrast to the eerie quiet of the night. Yet beneath this peaceful facade, you sense the layers of history, the invisible threads weaving together moments of joy, sorrow, and secrets. You remember Jefferson's love for botany and architecture, how he designed Monticello to reflect harmony between nature and human ingenuity. Historians still debate how much of the house's design was inspired by classical ideals versus personal symbolism. You step outside onto the stone terrace, the cool morning air brushing your skin, carrying whispers of forgotten conversations and half-remembered dreams. You imagine the countless footsteps that have crossed these grounds, some laden with hope, others heavy with burden. A soft breeze carries the faint scent of jasmine and old perfume, mingling with fresh earth and blooming flowers, a sensory tapestry that ties the present to the past. You find a bench beneath a flowering dogwood tree and sit closing your eyes. The memories of the hidden parlor, the girl and the phantom guest swirl gently in your thoughts. You realize that Monticello's mysteries are not just about ghosts or secrets, they are about the stories we carry within us, the histories we choose to remember or forget. You take a deep breath and smile softly. The night's journey has been strange, unsettling, yet strangely comforting, a lullaby woven from shadows and light. Now, as dawn breaks fully, you feel the weight of the house's memory ease, leaving you with a quiet peace. Tomorrow Monticello will stand as it always has, timeless, enigmatic, waiting for the next curious soul to wander its hidden chambers. The sun rises higher, casting long golden rays across the rolling hills that cradle Monticello. You stretch your legs and stand, feeling the gentle warmth seep into your skin, grounding you after the night's ethereal wanderings. The house behind you stands resolute, both a monument to history and a keeper of whispered secrets. You trace your steps back toward the main entrance, every stone and shutter familiar now, yet somehow imbued with new meaning. The locket still pulses softly in your hand, a steady reminder of the journey you've shared with the phantom guest and the hidden parlor. You pause on the threshold, hearing the faint hum of the world waking up the distant call of a morning bird, the rustle of leaves stirred by a breeze, the low murmur of life stirring beyond the estate's gates. Historians still argue whether Monticello's hidden chambers were ever meant for visitors like you, or if they exist only in the twilight between fact and legend. You smile to yourself. Perhaps the answer doesn't matter. Maybe the true magic lies in the exploration, the dance between memory and imagination. You take one last look at the house, its white columns gleaming softly in the morning light, and step away, carrying the stories with you. And as you walk away from Monticello, the gentle echo of the phantom guest lingers, a soft sigh in the breeze, a shadow that stretches just beyond sight. It is a tale meant for whispered nights, a gentle mystery to ease you into sleep. And now, as you settle into your own quiet space, let the soft shadows of history cradle you, just as they did the house. Remember, some journeys don't end, they simply wait for you to return. The night's quiet tales fade softly into the dawn. Let your breath slow, your mind ease, and your heart rest in the gentle embrace of this lingering story. Feel the calm wash over you like a slow river, steady and sure. There is no rush here, only the peaceful unfolding of time itself, like the turning of a well-loved page. Tonight, you've wandered halls, hidden from the everyday, touched the edges of forgotten dreams, and met ghosts that speak in whispers, not screams. The house holds you gently, wrapping you in its quiet history as you drift deeper into the calm dark. Sleep now carried on the soft wings of stories past. Tomorrow will come, but for now, rest within the hush. Sweet dreams.